Budget hearing to order. Thank you for joining us for this hearing on the city's proposed 2026 operating budget. Today's hearing marks the fourth hearing out of 9 scheduled hearings and will cover our Economic Development and Small Minority Business Committee, and will delve into the individual budgets of the Department of Development's Economic Development and Small Business Divisions, as well as the budget for the Office of Diversity and Inclusion. Following the presentations, we will hear comments prior to concluding, public comments prior to concluding. Similar to all of our hearings, my team will keep an eye on our Facebook and YouTube stream. So for those that are joining us online, if you have questions throughout the hearing, go ahead and drop those in the chat, and we'll be sure to try to answer those throughout the hearing. And I think we're going to go straight into our presenters who are with us today. Again, want to thank our folks in the Department of Development as well as the Office of Diversity and Inclusion for working through this budget cycle. It is a tighter budget, but I think that at least the budget that's been presented to me and what I see still allows us to continue to build on the progress that we've made in the spaces of diversity and inclusion, as well as economic development and all the work around small business. So thank you all for your efforts. First, I'm going to pass the floor over to Mark Lundeen, the Economic Development Administrator for Department of Development, as well as Heather Trainer, who is a Fiscal Manager for the Department of Development, for their presentation. With that, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Bankston and members of Council, for the opportunity to present the Department of Development's Economic Development and Small Business portion of the 2026 operating budget. I want to first start by taking you through some of the accomplishments and plans that we have for this year in each of our streams of work. So I'm going to start with our small business successes from 2025. Our office was able to directly support 1,330 businesses in 2025. Really proud of the work that our ecosystem partners and members of council and community as a whole are providing to our small business community. We've seen over $15 million invested in small businesses. The primary source of investment was through our Accelerate Columbus program, which is training, technical assistance, and really, functional support for small businesses. We saw over 600 participating businesses in this program. We also partner with Councilmember Bankston on a really impactful program called a capacity grant. That's a small grant for machinery and equipment for small businesses that have been through the Accelerate program or have been recommended by our entrepreneurial support organizations. And we saw 56 grants in that program this year, and really have seen that blossom as we've moved to a quarterly system of awarding those capacity grants. So we thank Council for their collaboration on that. Programs like Ground Floor Growth and Power of One have been successful as well. Those are more intensive investments that we're making in a smaller number of businesses. So in that case, we've had 12 Power of One recipients that were able to get meaningful physical rehabilitations of their businesses. Those help in our commercial corridors to kind of signal to the neighborhood continued investment and transformation. As you know, Councilmember Bankston, the Ground Floor Growth initiative in the Gay Street District downtown has been really helpful in continuing the progress that we're seeing down there. I think we're particularly excited about the phase 2 businesses that we've announced that are going to open shortly. So really great progress on that this year. Only other thing that I really want to highlight is some of our collaboration with other parts of our department, other departments like the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, things like the EDAP program, where we're helping to train small-scale developers that are both housing, retail, developers in our neighborhoods. That's been, a very impactful program as well. Moving to our business recruitment and retention efforts, we saw an uptick in last year's signed deals. So we have 14 deals that created 389 jobs, retained 1,163 jobs with a capital investment of $241 million and annual new payroll added to the city of $24.4 million. I'm highlighting on our slide here a project that we did with SafeLight. So SafeLight's headquartered in Columbus. We had been working with them over almost a year on, really meaningfully engaging with them on how they are treating a return to work policies, what they want their employees to experience as they come to the office every day, and how to kind of put them in a place where they could be successful from a workforce development standpoint over the next 10 years. So in doing that and working with their leadership, initially we thought we're searching for a new building that they can move into. And as they got into discussion and consultation with their employees and their parent company, they realized that the best option was actually to reinvest in the existing building that they were in. As you can see in the rendering, there's a sky bridge that are connecting these two buildings. What had happened is they had renovated the top 2 floors of both of the buildings, and in order to be an efficient, modern office complex, they realized if they could just connect these 2 buildings, it would give them everything that they needed from a staffing standpoint. So we got creative on the economic development side, piloted a program called the Commercial Office Modernization Initiative that covered some of the soft costs, not all, but some of the soft costs around the design of the sky bridge. And in the end, SafeLight chose to invest over $19 million in the renovation of their headquarters that kept 850 jobs in the city of Columbus. We'll see a growth of an additional 25 net new jobs. Overall, again, we kind of are seeing recovery from the pandemic. We still are more of our pipeline is made up of industrial manufacturing opportunities. In pursuing those, we've been successful in the region. We've seen growth in both pharmaceutical manufacturing, really a wide range of industries, which is key to our economy to continue to support a wide range of industries. Lastly, our Office of Infrastructure Investments is partnering to make real estate investments throughout the city. Again, a changing portfolio here where, in pre-pandemic times, we were doing a lot of mixed-use urban development, commercial office development. We've really taken this year to shift our focus to saying, how can we support small businesses through infrastructure investments, and how can we invest in our link-us corridors? So some of the successes that we've had are our partnership with Hilltop Rise. They came to us and had a business owner that was wanting to sell his building and put it in the hands of a community-facing organization. And it just so happened that the neighboring building was also for sale. So we were able to partner with them, provide them acquisition dollars, and secure 2 buildings that have 8 residential units and 5 retail units so that they can make investments that are going to be directly adjacent to a future link-us stop. Another initiative with the infrastructure team has been our small public-private partnerships. An example of that is Royal Child Academy. This is former CVS on Refugee Road. The owner of a daycare operation acquired the building. As they were going through some of the permitting with our building and zoning department, large infrastructure requirements were highlighted. And we partnered with them to fund the infrastructure improvements that were going to both help the circulation of the daycare itself, but also the surrounding area, and are looking forward to seeing that open this spring. The last slide is really getting into our 2026 budget. The department's general fund proposal totals $36.9 million for all divisions within development. Our economic development and small business budget is proposed at $5.1 million. These figures do not include the $14.6 million in projected incentive payments, as these funds are transferred to us later in the year. This is lower than that last year due to the reduction of 4 positions and funding for general fund contracts. 63% of our economic development budget is focused on small business programming, with a proposed budget of $3.2 million. This includes $1 million for the Downtown Columbus Inc. in support of our efforts to facilitate safety, cleanliness, and small business growth programs in downtown. In addition, this includes $950,000 continuing our Accelerate Columbus program. The remaining budget of $1.9 million supports job creation programming within the Office of Business Assistance and Office of Infrastructure Investments. These two groups are responsible for using tax incentives, capital funding, special assessments like TIFs to generate job growth through public-private partnerships. I'd like to recognize that approximately $110 million in funding flows through our economic development and small business team. Our operating budget of $5.1 million provides the staffing and programmatic support needed to manage this funding. This includes $70 million in TIF funding and special assessments and $33 million in bond funding. With that, I'll take questions from council.
Thank you, Mr. Administrator. And before I jump into my questions, I do just want to underscore and highlight your presentation. I think when we talk about economic development, when most folks talk about it, we seem to focus on the big thing, right? The big shiny things that capture the headlines. But I think what this highlights as well is that's only one side of it. The mass majority that we focus on is really our small businesses. The things, our corridors that really make our city go. And so I just want to thank you and your team. I know when I came on as a small business chair, when we first sat down, I said all of the resources and all of the effort that we put into the big guy, we got to leverage that for our small businesses too. And your team has taken that to heart. And I think it's clear in the outcome. So I just wanted to thank you for that. In particular, I do want to highlight one thing that I think is really special is our P3 program that I know Michelle on your team has been taking the lead on. Thinking about what we just saw with that daycare, I think about G's Shepherd Cafe over there off of Sunbury Road. Those types of things when we're talking about that thing that may seem small to us, right? Putting a new sidewalk when you are doing your development is make or break for emerging developers and particularly minority developers. So for us thinking, how do we leverage all of the things that we have done on the P3 side from a larger company standpoint, leveraging that for small businesses, I think is really, really innovative. I want to thank you and your team for thinking that way. Sticking with small business, and I also want to acknowledge my vice chair, Councilmember Belcher Padilla has just joined us, so thank you for joining us. Sticking with small businesses, Mark, could you just talk about what are some of the trends you're seeing in the small business ecosystem as a whole, and how is the department responding to that?
Yeah, I appreciate the question, Councilmember Bankston. I think one of the trends that we've seen every year as we do Accelerate Columbus, we go out to the small business community, our partners, and the ecosystem in general and ask them, what are your priorities? And one of the big pieces of feedback we got last year was the use of technology in small business. In response to that, we've worked with, our first ever AI program within Accelerate Columbus, where we can help businesses learn to use AI in realistic and grounded ways that can facilitate business growth. The other piece that we looked at was a search engine optimization program, where it's actually a former graduate of one of our Accelerate programs who now is administering a program for businesses to support their search engine optimization. So that was a piece that we heard of in the community that we wanted to respond to immediately. We're looking forward to seeing how those programs go and continuing to expand those capacities if that's what the need is for the small business community.
Thank you for that. And I know one other trend that I'm seeing, and I know we've talked about this too, is just the sheer volume of women entrepreneurs and women-owned businesses that are taking advantage of the city's investments. I know that in some of our accelerator programs, as high as 70% of the participants are women-owned businesses. And so I would say in 26, I know that my office really wants to work in partnership with you all on focusing on how do we really capture and harness what is happening in the women entrepreneur space. Shifting over to the industries side of things, I know you hit on it a little bit, but I wanted to just opine a little on what are those trends that we're seeing from industries that are coming here, the emerging ones, and what is our strategy of how do we capture that? In particular, when I think about and we look at the conversations I have with our auditor, what really is the trend that we're seeing is not so much about quantity of jobs, but about quality of jobs in some of those key sectors. So if you could just tell us a little bit on the horizon what you all are seeing out there and what we can expect.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Just to set the table, our region's pipeline has completely changed the last 5 years. Prior to 2020, about 85% of our regional pipeline was commercial office or some sort of in-office industry, and now 85% of it is some sort of manufacturing. So we've gone through a tremendous transformation in that. I think we're very fortunate in the city of Columbus to be as big as we are and to have available sites that we can compete in all of these different industries. So as remains for our region, our diversity is our strength. No industry is greater than 18% of our gross domestic product as a region, and that's what keeps us insulated from major impacts, both negative and positive in various industries. With that, we've been able to focus on growth in certain industries that are doing really well right now. Pharmaceutical manufacturing is an example. In 2025, we landed a big deal with Gift Health that represented 750 jobs that were reinvesting in a vacant building on our west side. We also saw Hikma Pharmaceuticals expand this year on the near west side. That was not an incentive that we provided. It was just merely working with the company, identifying a new product type, and them choosing to expand their facility to meet that need. So that I think will continue to be a growth area for the city and the region. But we're trying to prepare sites so that we're available for every opportunity. And I think that's the challenge going forward, is as we're looking at manufacturing, what it's starting to trend towards is the redevelopment of existing manufacturing sites. So how do we take existing sites within the city, reposition them for maybe new investments or new kinds of industries, or the Hikma example where they're reinvesting in a facility that is already up and running. So I think our focus on business expansion this year is really looking at the repositioning of existing land that can garner future investment. And I think in that, I would like to highlight some of the coordination that we have with other departments, other offices. So zone in phase 2, as you're contemplating that at council, that's a really important piece for our work. And we've been highly coordinating with both our planning division and the Department of Building and Zoning Services, because all of those zoning classifications really lays the groundwork for businesses to be able to reinvest in their operations. So I think that's been a really important collaboration, and our focus this year is going to be investing in those existing sites.
Yeah, thank you for that. And part of what you had said as well, and if you can just kind of elaborate on this a little bit, is around also retention. We get excited, and all of us get excited here when we have the deal, and everyone always asks me, well, how many new jobs is it going to create? Holistically, I say, well, how many jobs is it going to also retain? So if you could just talk about that balance between retention as well as going after getting new jobs, and why it's so critical that we not simply continue to grow and gain, but also focus on retention.
Yeah, I really appreciate that question, council member. And another thing that we're really proud of in our performance last year was business retention and expansion visits. And it's exactly that. As a region, we did 450 of them. We were about 115 in the city of Columbus, so really proud of that number. That's more than we typically do. And I think that focus on existing businesses, we've seen pay off directly. So an example I would give you is Aerospace Lubricants on the west side on Georgesville Road. You just heard legislation from us at the end of December. And that was an existing business that we visited early last year. And they said, hey, we have an opportunity for expansion, but our company is multinational. And so we're competing with sites in North Carolina, Texas, and even a site in Korea for the expansion of a product line. We were able to work with them throughout the year to kind of arm the local leadership in Columbus to make the case to their corporate leadership, and they ultimately chose to expand the product line in Columbus. So that's the importance of being out there, visiting businesses, and unearthing those opportunities where we can, to your point, we're keeping 75 jobs and we're expanding another 25 jobs with that project.
Yeah, thank you for that. Madam Vice Chair?
So I wanted to go back for just a second around when you were talking about the shift in industries, and in particular around manufacturing. I think, that's of particular interest to me if I think about my district, especially the southern portion of District 8, which used to be all manufacturing, right? And that industry kind of went away. And so now with the emergence of that, my wonder is if you could give us a little bit of why some of the switch, what we're seeing. Is it just because of the opportunity? Is it because of the land? Is it because why? And then also my other wonder is, what is our strategy around when some of those companies are looking at the different places to invest? When I think about that portion of the South Side, it's right for that reinvestment, especially because you don't have to do as much to turn over the land, right? From if it was a manufacturing site, you don't have to clear it to then, to make it residential, right? You don't have to do all of the same sort of work. So I'm just wondering, when we do have companies, first, why the switch? Second, when we do have those companies that approach us, if their interest is maybe in one side of town and we're seeing that side already has some of that investment happening, but there's another side that we're thinking, oh, well, this might be a little bit more appropriate. What do those conversations look like, or negotiations? Is that something that we bake into our strategy?
Yeah, very much so. And that's kind of some of the give and take that we're seeing with the Zone N Phase 2 efforts, right? Trying to reflect that and make it easier for manufacturers to expand where it's appropriate, but also allowing, organic growth to occur as it should in our city. So, the trends on investment in manufacturing, I think, are multifaceted. But a piece of it was really all the way back to the pandemic when, all of us were in our homes trying to order things and weren't able to get them because of difficulties in transportation. I think that's caused a lot of companies to look at their supply chains and say, can we be more local in our production of our products so that we ensure that our customers can always receive it as quickly as possible. And so I think that was the genesis in a lot of global multinational companies saying, hey, maybe I should invest closer to where my customers are. And, Columbus's location is optimal for that, right? So I think that led to, some of the interest in it. And I think to your point, it's efficiencies, right? They've looked at it and said, hey, I already have a great workforce here, and I can take that workforce and expand it or promote individuals into a new service line that I know can do the job for me. And so particularly with your district, I think that South Side has a really great workforce shed, and we're always highlighting that with businesses saying, hey, look, you live close to 250, 300,000 workers, right? You have access to talent. And that's a differentiator that we have versus, industrial park in Pataskala or, West Jefferson, just that proximity to labor force. And that's been a driver in investment. I think we've seen that work.
Well, and I think the proximity also to Rickenbacker and the fact that you can get something on a plane or from a plane to a train because of the multimodal station that's located right there. I think, I think whenever we're having these conversations and these hearings, and for the folks who are watching, connecting those dots for folks, I think are just important, because I think if you live in this world, these things come kind of naturally. If you don't, and when we have residents that are asking us, I think they look to us to provide them because we are their source, right? They don't have the opportunity to always go to a business and say, why don't you come here? But they look to us to say, why don't we have these resources? And so I think filling in those dots for folks of how the process works and what our thinking is I think critical, because especially now with a growing city, we're seeing every part of the city is growing. It's growing differently, right? Some is growing both in housing and job opportunity. Some is growing more in job opportunity, maybe a slightly more than housing. And so when folks aren't seeing that level of growth, which, sometimes it's a little bit more evident, but when you're talking about a wider span of the city, they may not see it the same way. So when they're asking these questions, I think it's just important for us to, again, kind of fill in those blanks for folks so they see what might be coming and they understand what the strategy is and the work that we're doing. So I appreciate you adding that context, because I think, especially on the South Side, this is certainly a question that we get a lot. And because of the challenges with transportation, as of now, but hopefully that will change in the near future. I think that also just makes it harder for then people to access some of the good that's coming, because it's harder to get out of the South Side unless you do have a car or something else. So I think also making those connections with the different areas of the city with the prosperity that is coming is also important. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. And I think also, too, is why some of the tools that we have are so critically important as well. This body, I believe it was last year, took up legislation to expand that Southside CRA for that very reason, to capture some of those older industrial sites, to give them some type of incentive to invest back into their properties, whether that be converting it to clean manufacturing or preparing it for the future. And so all of it works together. But to your point about Columbus's growth, I was literally talking to someone about this other day. People forget that we have 222 square miles in our city. So when folks are like, where are these people? I don't see them. Like, well, you need to go to the far west side and see what's happening out there, and go to, the south side and see what's happening there. The growth, I think, is really spread out. So that's a really good call out. One last thing before we move on, Administrator Lundeen, is, you mentioned, and I think it's across the board, we know that this was a tighter budget. In the mayor's proposed budget, there was a recommendation to decrease some of those outside contracts. I know you mentioned it in yours. Without getting into specifics of particular contracts. Could you just talk a little bit about you all's philosophy there, how you went about thinking about that, or currently are thinking about which contracts to either reduce, eliminate, or right size for this proposed budget?
Yeah, really appreciate the question, Councilmember Bangston. We're still contemplating it, is what I would say. Our director is really wanting to be surgical and looking at how we can continue to deliver all of the vital services that our department delivers and, adhere to the recommendation of finance to reduce our service contracts. So that's still an evaluation. And I think, our department's trying to be really thoughtful about that so that we deliver all of the vital services that our citizens expect.
Thank you. And in that same vein, I noticed that some of the cost savings too was either reduction or not filling of 4 positions, particularly on the economic development team. Are you confident that we'll be able to continue with the momentum and gains that we've seen with the current team and capacity that you have?
Yeah, I mean, we're at capacity. I think what we're focused on this year is trying to cross-train our team so that if, a piece of work is spiking in a month or two, that we have the capability to adjust our staff slightly to absorb all the work. So I think it's a good opportunity for our staff as well to try to get experiences in other parts of our business. So that's our strategy to accomplish the work in 2026.
Thank you. Thank you again for all the work you guys and successes we've seen in 25, and looking forward to continue to partner in 2026. Next, we will hear a presentation from Jason Jenkins, our Director of the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, and I will turn it over to him.
Good afternoon, Chair Bankston, Councilwoman Barroso de Padilla. It is a pleasure to be here this afternoon. So we're going to dive right into it. First, wanted to highlight this quote from the mayor, really just pointing out local businesses, local economy, and we take this to heart. We do want to grow Columbus on a consistent basis, and with the leadership that we have here at council, with the leadership at the administration, we're able to do that. I'm going to quickly highlight some of our successes. One that is not on here, but I do want to make mention is the Hispanic Heritage Month, the support we had there working with local small Latino businesses. We did have a great success with that this month. We've done that for the last 2 or 3 years, I believe, Councilwoman. So looking to continue that support, but wanted to highlight that. A lot of the work that Administrator Lundeen speaks about with the small businesses really helps support our work. So we truly work in tandem with each other. He spoke about the relationships between the different departments, and that does not fall short with the Office of Diversity and Inclusion. So a lot of the businesses that we work with, we try to provide opportunities either within the city itself through contracting purposes or around the city with other partners that we work with, some of the auxiliary work that's out there. So one of the things that we've done was a Catering Connections event, where we brought in about 15 or more caterers because thanks to City Council, our food policies have changed, and we're able to engage with our community a little differently. We know after a long day at work, and we're asking our community members to come to an event to hear more about what's going on, they're probably a little hungry, so we want to make sure that we feed them. But we wanted to showcase some of our local caterers here with all of our procurement officers, and that event actually brought out about 400 plus employees to showcase new caterers. So we plan to repeat that this year. Really excited about the success that we have from that. A lot of feedback from our local caterers in regards to getting contracts, didn't know that they could do business with the city and in what capacity. So that was a success. We did a procurement event, partnership with Columbus City Schools. That was a great opportunity to engage small businesses with contracts with Columbus City Schools as well as with the city of Columbus. So that was a real big success. We really enjoyed that partnership and look forward to continuing that partnership. Last piece, so we also do, outside of just the small business work, we also work with our 10,000 employees. We bi-yearly, we do a workforce survey We were rated positively in our workforce, from our workforce. Results were positive. We want to make sure that we are finalizing that report, and we'll get that out to all of our employees and to our council so you can see the results. But really good responses from that. Additionally, from that survey, so we have 5 employee resource groups currently. We're going to add 2 in 2026. The first one that's coming online is our young professionals. The second one that will be coming online will be our caregivers. So really excited about expanding our employee resource groups. And it was our people that spoke to us, and it shows that we're listening. Lastly, were the changes that you're fully aware of were updates to Title 39 to comply with federal guidelines. These updates, I don't want to take it light like they didn't affect the work that we do, but it did not stop the work that we do. We were able to retain over 90% of our program participants, which were our diverse businesses. We are going to still continue to work with those diverse businesses. I'm going to pause here for a second because what you'll hear is how we plan to work with those businesses, how we plan to increase access for those small businesses. But I do want to touch on in 24, and we're still running the numbers for 25, we're at 20%, roughly 20% diverse spend in the city of Columbus. The impact of that is in the millions when it comes to job creation, when it comes to revenue for the city. So as Mark mentioned earlier, diversity being our one of our biggest strengths, that isn't just in how our the business sectors that we occupy in, that's also in the business owners. Councilmember Bankston, you spoke to our WBEs, our women-owned businesses, the exponential growth in that. We're tracking that. We're seeing that trend, but we're also seeing a trend in our minority businesses that are growing and developing in those spaces. So really excited to be supporting them within the city contract space, but also externally in that space. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Nadia Miller to talk through some of the things that we're doing fiscally in 2026. Thank you.
Good afternoon, council members. So I would like to go over the 2026 proposed budget overview. So just starting with the department budget request. So year over year, ODI's expenses have remained relatively stable from year to year. The ODI budget this year will support the availability study. And the availability study results, we plan to drive the disparity study. So that is what we'll be focusing on this year. We do need some time to conduct the study and review those results. The second point is the personnel and employee workforce highlights. Again, ODI's workforce has actually remained relatively stable from year to year. With recent adjustments, ODI will employ 2 less staff members, so there is a slight reduction there. So our goals and highlights, we plan to create, implement, and evaluate small regional business programs. So that is that small regional business program that we are launching this year to support our small businesses locally. One way we plan to support them and provide them access to city contracts is through the sheltered market program for SRBE. So we're really excited that we're able to set aside some opportunities for our small businesses specifically. The next point is to create 2 new ERGs, and the director did speak on those 2. And so we will onboard those leaders and evaluate the success and outcomes of the 2 new ERG groups. The last piece are significant expansions and unfunded requests. So we did have an interest in supporting the Columbus Black Expo, as well as an updated disparity study. With the constraints, they were unfunded. However, we do plan to revisit these requests in our 2027 proposal. And I believe that may be the last slide. Director, did you want to add to any of those points?
So nothing to add. I'll leave it open for questions at this time.
Thank you, Director, for the presentation. Similar question to that I asked of Department of Development. Given some of the budget constraints, just talk through kind of your philosophy on how you are prioritizing or thinking through those potential outside contracts, in particular, right-sizing those or eliminating or decreasing those. Just if you could talk about what your philosophy is. Again, not anything in particular, but just how you're going about thinking of that.
So we always employ a competitive process. So we have an intake form where there are opportunities to fund projects and initiatives. So what we do with that is really evaluate where we are within our budget and then where the most need is with what the work that is coming in. So this year we will be giving out less contracts as it relates to some of the work that we've done around small businesses, but also leaning into some of our partners like the Office of Development to really see where they're doing so we don't duplicate efforts. We also want to make sure that we are streamlining and aligned with what the community is asking for and what their needs are. So it's a lot of, it will take a lot more communication to make sure that we're serving our community, but we feel confident that we can do that even with the budget constraints.
Thank you for that. And I saw one of the things in there was funding for this availability study. Could you just talk about the status of that, where we are in that process and potential timeline?
Absolutely, and I'm gonna ask Nadia to touch on some pieces if I miss anything. So currently, we are looking at awarding. We have our top 3 in the engagement component side as well as the data collection, and so our committee, our evaluation team, will be evaluating those top 3 and then awarding. Our goal is to have that done. Those 2 awarded contracts first quarter of this year, and then the process will start where we'll be engaging the community, our small business community, and working through the data to make sure that we have a good availability study. And from that availability study, it will inform us on the disparity study, which we will be looking to conduct in 27.
Thank you. Any questions from my colleagues? And I just want to acknowledge Councilmember Ross has joined us as well, so thank you for being here.
Thank you, Chair Bankston. Director Jenkins, this probably is a personal issue of mine. I can't hear, and you talk very softly.
I'm sorry.
If you don't mind, because everything that you're talking about, I'm very interested in. I want to make sure I hear all of the things. So if you don't mind speaking into the mic. In addition to that, Chair Bankston, thanks for asking about the availability study. I just want a little clarity. So I saw the resource availability, you're going to do some of it this year, and then you plan to do an updated one next year. Is that, do I have that correct, or is it?
Well, first off, let me say congratulations.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Excited to have you on council. And then I'm going to let Nadia go into detail in regards to the difference between the availability study and the disparity study.
Thank you. They're two different things.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. And then tell me which ones you're doing. I know the disparity study is connected to our court case and the requirements for that. I'm more interested in that, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure, just for a little clarity.
Yes.
So the availability study is a prerequisite of the disparity study, so it will help us better understand going in what the terrain is
Yep.
of Ohio. So the availability study is race gender neutral. It's a neutral study. We are just looking at the landscape of the entire state, just really discovering what's going on. So it's a discovery study. So that will inform us going into the disparity study. The mix-up with the resources at the bottom was we do plan to ask for funds to support the disparity study in 27.
Okay.
So availability funds have been provided.
Granted. Okay.
And the disparities next.
And availability is a prerequisite before you do the disparity study.
Correct.
Great, thank you.
And then along those lines, what does it look like? How do we share that information with the community? And then I guess what is the timeline for any changes or adjustments or additional programming resources? Like, can you just talk a little bit about what that looks like?
Yeah, so as Nadia mentioned, the availability study is race and gender neutral. It's really just looking at what small businesses, and we're really going to be focused on small businesses, and there's a threshold for that, are in our market. Where do we have gaps? Where do we have oversaturation? What types of businesses are in our market? And then that then informs the disparity study to allow us to know who owns these businesses, where do we see opportunity for individuals to grow within those spaces, within those divisions. So the way that we're looking at the rollout, the initial rollout for the availability study this year, we do have an engagement plan on the front end, and we have a whole, one part of our RFP was strictly for engagement with the community, with the business owners. And so what we're going to do is reach in and engage and reach out to identify who's out there in the market, who can we work with. We're going to be asking a lot of questions. We're going to have focus groups. We're going to be pushing out a lot of information. We will be creating content so council can share, as well as our partners within this work. So the engagement piece is really key for us, which is why we separate it out from the data collection component. So we will be engaging the community throughout this process and throughout the year to make sure that we're gathering the proper information. The disparity study, once we have that, it also will have its own engagement component as well, similar to the availability study, focus groups, making sure that we're getting the right information, identifying who the owners of these businesses are. That way we can compare our availability versus any disparities within race and gender, which lends to the court case that Councilmember Ross was referring to.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. We'll see no other questions or comments from my colleagues. Again, thank you, Director, for.
I'm sorry,
go
Chair.
ahead.
I didn't know if you were going to move on from this portion. I did want to say one other
absolutely.
thing. I just wanted to also highlight the work that you have done around the employee resource groups. I think it is. I am the executive chair of one of them, and I just wanted to highlight your department's work because I think, the point of employee resource groups are not only to create a sense of belonging for folks who might be of different identities or for the different groups, to create a network and to create support, but I think the other thing that's also, especially at this time, where our communities feel so divided, where we are divided upon opinion or whatever, gives opportunity for people to be proximate to each other. And it gives them the opportunity to understand each other, to understand culture, to understand some of the challenges, to understand opportunity, to understand celebration, to understand joy. And so I just wanted to also highlight that because I think that, so many times when we sit here and we create policy that is affecting businesses outside of these walls, it's important as one of the largest employers in the city for us to say, we're not asking people to do something we're not doing ourselves, right? And if we want to be an employer of choice, if we really want to be the example that we are setting for other businesses across the city, whether that's through policy or practice, I think it's just important that we highlight some of these strategies. And so I want to take this opportunity before we moved on to highlight that because there really has been really incredible work that has happened in those ERGs and bringing people together. And I just think it's just an example in these days and times where we can't say certain words or we can't highlight what is factual or the necessity of people coming together when they are alike and when they are different, and creating those opportunities is so vitally important to the workplace, to people feeling like they are part of a community and to come together and to break down some of those walls and those silos. So I just also wanted to highlight that before we concluded this this session, because that is an important investment that the City of Columbus is making in our employees, and again, an example in practice for other institutions around the city to do the same.
I agree, and I really want to encourage any city employee to become a part of the employee resource groups. It is open to all, It is not, you don't have to be an African American or black to be in the black ERG. I don't have to be Latino to be in a Latino ERG. So we really want to make sure that those things are open to all people because it's information gathering and sharing. We actually have a fiscal event, a fiscal literacy event, financial literacy event, I'm sorry, happening this month for our employee resource groups, and it's sold out. So we have had, Councilwoman, you've been on panels for our women's ERG, and that one was sold out as well. So we've gotten great response from our employees, and they're looking to expand and grow and learn more through these process. And this is just an avenue to create that we've created for them to do that. So
When I
really
think
excited
there's
for that.
one
Thank you.
pizza and pronouns, which
Yes, pizza
I
and
think,
pronouns.
giving folks the opportunity to come in a safe space to also learn
Mm-hmm.
and to understand so that you have better proximity to others and that you have a place where you can learn, again, like in a safe space, if you have that level of curiosity, wherever your own values or thinking or wonders might be, but that you can create that space, especially, I think, at the city where our residents are just as diverse as the people who work here.
Right.
And so understanding that so that we can better be public servants. Every person at the City of Columbus, no matter what job you have, you are a public servant. You are serving our residents. And so to understand them and to have more compassion towards your neighbors is just critical. And so, I think again, this department, I know, has taken a lot of shots because of everything that's happening at the federal level and the pressures that we are getting. And so I think we have not swayed away from that work. We have continued to lean into it because of its importance. And so I just want to say thank you, and thank you to your team for all the work that you've done.
Thank you. Yeah, this office is ready for the smoke. So
Again, yes, want to echo all of those things from my vice chair. Again, and also to say to all of our employees, thank you. It is the faces up here that you get to see, but it's really the 9,000 employees behind the scenes that make our city go. Director, I do just want to point out, I have not sat on a panel, but clearly I'm not as good as Councilmember Rosa de Padilla. So, maybe one day I'll
No,
get
I
it.
was wondering. I'm like, I haven't been invited to any
No,
of
I haven't
these.
either,
I'm
so
trying to
that's okay.
figure out. I don't know.
Opportunities are abound, my friends.
My goodness.
Opportunities have not ended. They continue on.
I just want. I was one of the employees that you, Chair Bankston, so eloquently said make the city run. I just don't know where my invitation. It's okay. It's fine.
Again, want to thank both of our departments for their presentations, and again, as we continue to work through the budget process. As of the deadline today at 10 a.m., there were no speakers for this hearing. Again, I ask folks that are listening or watching, if you're watching this, continue to engage with our office. So if you do have questions that come up, please feel free to engage with us. Again, I want to thank our presenters as well as all the city staff. I'd also see some representatives from our mayor's office here. Thank you again for all of your work on this budget. The next budget hearing will take place next Wednesday on January 21st at 4 p.m., and that will be our Public Service and Transportation Committee chaired by Councilmember Rosa de Padilla, and we're looking forward to that. So please reach out to her office with any questions or requests to speak ahead of that hearing. And then just want to again underscore, as we work through this 2026 budget, it goes without saying that, yes, it is a historic budget, but yet still a very tight budget. I think like any other industry, the city of Columbus is a business itself as well. And so as we continue to see growth in revenues, we also continue to see expenses outpacing that revenue. And so hard decisions had to be made for this proposed budget that is before us. Hard decisions will have to be made by this body as we look to make sure that some of the priorities that this body wants to see are reflected in that. But I think what I can reassure the people of Columbus is that we will work together to ensure that we have a budget that works for our community, that ensures that it prioritizes every resident, particularly our most vulnerable. And so I just want to thank everyone as we go through this budget process that know that we are in this together. Unlike some of our friends in another place called DC, there ain't gonna be no government shutdown around here. So we're gonna get it done. And with that, we'll conclude this hearing. Thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon.